Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Lots to get into this morning. It's not often that we talk about a story from the South China Morning Post, but actually I think there's a lot of credibility from it in relation to who's written it and more importantly what it means around Manchester United's transfer policy, 3 targets looked at this summer and when we're going to be looking to bring those players in. So we're going to be starting off talking about that. Also some of Solskjaer's comments from last night, which I think are really interesting around Diallo. And also Solskjaer himself, I'll give you the exact quote, saying that we're a work in progress. What are your thoughts about that? I know it's something that frustrates some people in the live comments, that when I say he's a work in progress, people get really irritated. Well, I've been saying this for a very long time, and Solskjaer's come out and said it last night. Should it still be a work in progress 2 years in? I've always felt that it was a work in progress. What are your thoughts on that? We'll get into that and what Solskjaer said after the game. Also, just a little bit of positivity is here as well. I think that the result, I'm not going to talk about the result from last night because basically I've done a match reaction and, we had Flex and Ricky and everyone talk about that. But what I will say, just a little bit more positivity, because I was very impressed with that result last night and I'm very excited about Newcastle on Sunday. But the brilliance of winning 4-0 last night and putting the tie to bed actually really helps us, because we've got a few injuries, we've got a few tiredness, and if Solskjaer's clever, after Newcastle, he's in a really good position, because if we, Newcastle on Sunday, we need to win that. It's a must-win game. Give the first team the week off until Chelsea next week, and then we've got a week off between Chelsea and Man City. So much needed rest for our players coming up over the next couple of weeks with only a game at the weekend. And there's no way Bruno, Rashford or anybody decent should be playing against Sociedad next week. Put them on the bench. Zed Bacon, I'm not stupid and I'm not going to read a name out like that, you absolute prat. But let's get in. Lots to talk about, as I said. Let me just make sure I've got all the headlines that I wanted to just cover. Yeah, bit from Fabrizio Romano as well. Welcome to Members Club, Shane O'Hare. Kunde, Sancho meeting in coming weeks. Okay, so let's start off with this new story. Solskjaer wants 3 signings this summer. And yeah, this is coming from the South China Morning Post. I read it. I don't know where I read it. I can't remember where I read it. Somebody was, I think I saw it in the Daily Express actually, but they were quoting this article. Sam Peavy says it's 4 a.m. here in America and I just rolled a fat blunt and I'm enjoying the show. There we go. Don't know what one of them is. Anyway, but let's get on with the story. The reason this story has some credibility this morning from the South China Morning Post is because it's written by Andy Mitten. It's written by Mitten. But no, seriously, you might not know who it is. You might know who he is. Basically, he asks questions of Ollie in the press conference. And my interpretation of that is that I think there's a relationship there between Manchester United Football Club and this particular journalist. So when he's saying what he's saying in this article, which is Manchester United want 3 signings this summer, centre-back, right winger and attacker, and that Sancho's price is expected to come down a lot, Kunde has been scouted extensively, and that there will be meetings in the next few weeks to identify individual targets for the summer, I think that there's probably quite a lot of, hopefully, truth to that. Kunde should be the priority centre-back. We've been talking about that for a number of weeks and months now. Sancho, we know, is still a priority. 3 signings is interesting. But there's 2 things I would pick out of that straight away. 2 things I would pick out straight away. 1, centre-back, centre-forward and right winger, for me, is still not solving the problems that we have. And those problems are, yes, centre-back, potentially right winger, centre forward, no. Centre midfield is what we need to resolve. We're going to lose Paul Pogba and we haven't got a specialist centre defensive midfielder. So why are we getting another striker and a right winger in when we need a centre defensive midfielder? And this worries me about Manchester United. And people can say, well, I want Haaland, I want Sancho. I understand that. They're good players. We'll talk about them in a minute. But if you bring Kunde in at centre back, and that's a big if, we're not suddenly title winners. We need a centre defensive midfielder. Fred, to me, did well last night, but can he do that role? McTominay can't do the CDM role. Matic looks like he's dusted. Garner is doing well at Forest, but I think he needs a loan in the Premier League next year. So we need a centre defensive midfielder. So it worries me a little bit that there is, the only talk I hear about a centre defensive midfielder is from me and you. And when I say you, Man United football fans, I don't mean I don't hear anything about CDMs from Manchester United, and it worries me because it's a massively important position that seems to be being neglected again. And I just don't want United to always be the unfinished puzzle. Like, we get Koundé in, but Pogba goes, oh, the midfield's the big hole again. And then next season, we're just going, we need a midfielder. It's, for me, I don't know what anybody else thinks, but for me, with Manchester United over recent years, it's always next year. It's always work in progress, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes' time, because Solskjaer said that himself. But it's always the next piece, and we never get, like a Chelsea or a Man City or even a Liverpool that summer where they went and got 4 or 5 players. Teams try to solve their problems quick so that they can win titles. Manchester United don't solve their problems quick because they don't want to spend money. So what happens is you maybe get Koundé in this summer, but then next season we're all about a midfielder, and then the summer after that we get a midfielder, but then another problem's come. You never solve the problem. It's like plugging a hole in a sinking ship. By the time you've plugged one hole, another one's already popped up. And United never seem to want to solve the problems and give a manager a real go at it. The manager of Manchester United, whether it's Solskjaer, Mourinho, Van Gaal or Moyes, they've always got holes in their team that the board won't fill. They will give money, they have spent money, but they never give enough each summer that the holes can be filled. And for me, midfield is a big, big, big hole. Mark, where would we be without Bruno? 36 goals, 19 assists in all competitions and 560 passes in the final third. Player of the year. I think if Man United could win the Europa League, he should be a Ballon d'Or contender. Somebody said it last night. He should be a Ballon d'Or contender anyway, but you've got to do something significant. And obviously we're not going to win the league and we're not in the Champions League, but he is Ballon d'Or contender material. Player of the year, definitely. Sancho or Grealish? That was from Simon Cliff. Salty, Sancho or Grealish? Don't know. In my opinion, Harry Maguire played well last night with Bailly. What do you think? Says Harry's. Well, I said that in my match reactions out there. I said that Harry Maguire and Eric Bailly played well. It's interesting. I saw one player ratings. I think it was Manchester Evening News, and they gave Dean Henderson a better score than Maguire and Bailly. And I'm like, Dean Henderson had nothing to do. He didn't have a bad game, but he had nothing to do. How can that be? But there are people have got different opinions. Just very quickly on Harry Maguire, the only thing that irritates me about this is that we again are waking up this morning to, it's like light bulbs are going off in ex-players and journalists' head. Oh, Maguire plays better with Bailly, and they're writing articles on it like they've solved world peace. Like, we've been talking about this for bloody months. It frustrates me that, and it's just another example of your opinion and analysis being better than mainstream media again, because you've been talking about this collectively on this channel about Maguire and Bailly being a better partnership and Lindelof and Maguire being a bad partnership consistently for a very long time. And now the old slow sports news, they're all catching up on it now, and they think they found something new, but this has been going on for ages. I just hope Solskjaer realises it, because that's the only person who really needs to realise it, isn't it? But back to this story. The thing that worries me a bit is that we're looking at a forward, a right winger and a centre-back, because a centre defensive midfielder is a priority position as far as I'm concerned. The second thing that concerns me about this story, and I don't know whether anyone's picked up on it yet, Scott Power says we must use width to create chances, too much reliance on Bruno. Ahmed looks mustard, but he's our only proper winger. I'd still go for Sancho on that basis alone. Well, we're going to talk about that and wingers in a minute, Scott Power, so smash a like on the video if you're watching live. But the second thing that worries me the most about this is the line where it says Solskjaer will meet with the board in the coming weeks to discuss individual targets for the summer. It's fucking February. I'm sorry to swear, but it is. Why are we sitting down in a few weeks' time to talk about summer targets? This is why we fail. We're so bloody unresponsive. We need a bloody defib. Someone phone 999. We need a bloody pulse in that boardroom in relation to transfers. Why is Solskjaer sitting down in the coming weeks to talk about transfer targets for the summer? These should have been in place in December. This is what a director of football does. They don't sit down in March to discuss signings in May. They sit down in September to talk about the next summer. That's what happens. A proper football club has plans in place. Man City will already know what they're going for in the summer. Chelsea will already know what they're going for in the summer, even though Tuchel's only been there 3 or 4 weeks. They'll have had that chat. Why is it? And look, there might not be total truth from this, but what I'm saying is I think that the person who's written this article has got good connections with the club, and maybe that story's been put out there because they think people will like that story. But I think United fans and football fans in general are a lot more intelligent now. That you can't just put a story out there. Oh, this will excite them. put it out there that United are going to sit down with Ollie in the next few weeks to talk about transfers. But yeah, that would be exciting if it was November, but not in bloody March. You know why it annoys me? Because Alaba's already gone to Real Madrid. Upamecano's already gone to Bayern Munich, and they're going to happen in the summer. But United are going to sit down in a few weeks' time to discuss our targets. It exposes incompetence when, especially Upamecano, whose release clause doesn't kick in until the summer, has already agreed to go to Bayern Munich, and he's a centre-back target that we should have been looking at. I'm not saying we should have got him, but we should have been looking at. But United are talking about their targets in a few weeks' time. This is irritating. Now, of course, it might not be true. Man United might be going, well, I don't know where this story's come from. It's not true. We've already sorted out our targets. We're already talking to Koundé, but they can't release that, obviously. But what I'm saying is it might not be true, but it's coming from a credible sort of story, really. And also, it wouldn't bloody surprise me if it's true, because we're so slow at doing transfers that we probably are going to wait till March, April to have a chat with Ollie. Oh, Ollie, have you got any time in April? We'll have a chat about transfers. Yes, Gaffer, I can do it. Oh, actually, I'm away that week. I think Boris is going to get rid of the restrictions. So I'm heading off to Barbados for a couple of weeks. I could need a rest. Let's do it in early May. Transfer window doesn't open till May-ish. Let's sit down in May. We'll get an hour there and we'll have a chat about what's available. We should have a director of football. I'm fed up of saying this, and we should have proper plans in place around transfers. We should be tapping up Koundé right now. We should be tapping up Sancho right now. We should be tapping up whoever we want right now. And when I say tapping up, I mean, I know that's not right, but it does go on. It does go on. And when I say tapping up, I mean we should be talking to Sevilla as well. We should be talking to Dortmund as well, getting things in place. We need Koundé, Sancho, and Zakaria to become title contenders. We should use Brandon Williams as a backup to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, says Conor Harrison. I don't think we've seen enough of Brandon Williams to know that, to be honest with you. I think a loan would be great for him. With the budget for a centre-back and a right-back, the funds for any other player would come off Pogba's sale. So who would we pick? Sancho or Grealish? Basically a winger or a CDM. Also, don't see any CDM options we can buy, says Angie S. Declan Rice, Zakaria. We can't put forward 101 suggestions, but don't expect anything from this board. Sorry, we can put forward 101 suggestions, but we can't expect anything from this board. They're not footballing people. They won't make the right decisions, says Julian S. Well, the thing is, as soon as I hear conversations about transfers for United, I must admit my blood pressure goes up, because it's the same every year. And, you know, taking that article on face value, Solskjaer wants 3 signings this summer, a centre-back, a right winger and a striker. I can straight away say it's bullshit. Not because that story's not what Solskjaer wants. I'm sure Solskjaer does want that. Let's pick 3 players out. Koundé, 60 million. All right, that's the budget gone. Sancho, 80 million. Where's that 80 million coming from? Striker, Haaland, 100 million. Never going to win that race anyway. Where's that coming from? So, yeah, Ollie wants a striker, a right winger and a centre-back. He ain't getting it. Forget about it. You're not going to get it. And if you are going to get it, it's not going to be the quality that you want. You want Haaland? I can't even think of what United would go for. Callum Wilson, come on down. You want Sancho? Douglas Costa on a free, come on down. You know, we're not going to do those 3 deals at a quality level anyway. And also, listen to what Romano said last night about Haaland. He said that Dortmund know there's a lot of interest, and they might do something this summer, but they feel Haaland's happy there, and the release clause doesn't kick in until 2022. So if someone wants him this summer, they're going to have to spend silly money. I don't think there's many clubs that can spend silly money, probably apart from Chelsea. So Man United will not buy Haaland. Forget it. I know people keep going on about Ollie's relationship with him and he's Norwegian. You know, the chance to get Haaland and the chance to get Haaland on the cheap was over a year ago when we thought we were going to get him, and that was the chance and we blew it. So we won't get Haaland anyway. If we want a striker, and I don't know why we do want a striker, but if we want a striker, then for me, it should be Pogba for Ronaldo. Mark, all of this comes because bankers are on the board and they are most inept people in the world, says Sammy. People going in on the bankers today. And Andre Silva, says Shazil. Yeah, I mean, Andre Silva, we spoke about him a couple of times this week. He's not a terrible signing, is he? Ethan Lard as backup to Aaron Wan-Bissaka makes sense to me. His class just been ravaged by injury, says Scott Power. And our board lacks competence, organisation and motivation, says Lawrence. All I would say is, before we move on, if we are looking at 3 signings this summer, well done. I don't trust our board to make those signings. But the thing that irritates me the most, and I've heard it twice now in the last week, Romano said it last week, and now we've had this story we're talking about this morning, is that United will sit down in the coming weeks and months to sort out their transfer targets. It's late February. Why are we talking about transfer targets in March and April? It's just incompetent, and this is why we need a director of football. With all due respect, Ed Woodward's not a director of football. That's not his role. He's chief executive, but he's involved in transfers. The chief executive of a football club should not be involved in transfers because they've got other roles. Therefore, it will be, Ollie, let's have a chat in March about transfers. A director of football's job is transfers, contract renewals, etc. Their job is that. They don't need to worry about doing a brand deal for toilet paper. Their job is transfers, acquisition, renewal, retention. They will be looking. If you employ a director of football, 12 months of the year, they're looking at players to get rid of and bring in. Manchester United haven't got somebody to do that. Solskjaer's coach. I mean, this is the best way I can explain this. We're Manchester United, biggest club in England, one of the biggest clubs in the world. We don't have somebody whose job is to work on transfers. We've got a manager who's part of the transfer process, who is managing the team every day. We've got a chief executive in Ed Woodward, who's part of the transfer process, who is doing everything every day, whether it be recruiting, talking to the Glazers, brand deals. And then we've got head of scouting who's involved in the transfer process, but he's a scout. So we don't have anybody that brings those 3 together. They should all come into the meeting, but the director of football should be running it. And we don't have someone to do that role. And I don't know whether people understand the way football clubs are run or how modern football clubs are run. But we don't have somebody. I remember Mourinho saying this. We don't have somebody whose job is to bring everybody together and be in charge of recruitment. And it's ridiculous. 2021 and Man United don't have someone to do this. Hi Mark, Greenwood and Ahmed should be starters. Look at Camavinga, Bellingham, etc. We can't keep saying all still too young, says Bando K. And Mark, what's the point of buying a striker? Our team lacks creativity. Cavani gets 1.6 shots per game. We need Grealish or Aouar to create more chances, says Ronnie. We do. And look, before I move on, those 3 positions that we're meant to be looking at, centre-back, right winger and striker. Look, if we did get Koundé and Sancho, I would be very, very happy. I'd be very concerned about CDM, but I cannot overemphasise enough how much I rate Jadon Sancho, how excited I was to get him last summer if we didn't get him. Jadon Sancho is not a bad signing. I'm not going to sit here and say Sancho or Grealish, it's Grealish every day. I might go for Grealish, but I don't want anybody to ever think that we do not want or need a Jadon Sancho. We do. But Zayn Miassi says Roy Keane is director of football. He won't take no for an answer. I would love Sancho to come to Manchester United, but I just think my mindset personally is I know where the problems are in that team. It's centre-back and CDM, and they're more of a priority as far as I'm concerned. But I don't think they will be for Solskjaer and the board. I still think they want Sancho, and I think we will try and get him. The sad thing will be is if we what I fear is that United will use most of their budget on Sancho and think that's a win. And next season we could be going, we're still shit at the back and we're still shit at centre defence midfield. Oh, but we've got Jadon Sancho who never gets the ball quick enough. So we'll score goals next season. We're scoring goals now, but we do need a CDM and a centre-back. And it worries me what we might end up with, because I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I almost feel now with the centre-back, it's Koundé or broke. And what I mean by broke is we're going to get 3rd or 4th choice again. There's not a lot left on the table. I don't want Konate. His injury record is bad. Ramos isn't going to come. Varane's not going to come. Upamecano's already gone. Alaba's already gone. It's Koundé or nothing for United. But when I say nothing, it will be a Badiashile. It will be a Pau Torres. It will be a Tyrone Mings. It will be 3rd or 4th choice. And that's not what we need. We need somebody to come in and be better than what we've got. I think we need a CDM, but not a replacement for Pogba, as we've got Van der Beek, who Ollie bought in advance, as he knows he can't keep Paul. I mean, yeah, is Van der Beek a replacement for Pogba, though? I don't know. Hey, Mark, do you know Solskjaer and Hannibal Mabry have been promoted to the senior team? Slow sports news there, Noah. Yeah, we've known about that for a week. Let's talk about that for a moment, though. Haaland could be a good investment. His price will skyrocket after COVID, says Narish. No, won't happen. Haaland won't happen to United. They haven't got the money to do it. And also, Riola's his agent, isn't he? Director of Football would also make sure we don't waste time spending whole summer chasing Sancho to then desperately search for signings on deadline day. Yeah, a Director of Football would revolutionise Manchester United. Let's just have a look at what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said last night after the game. He spoke about Amad Diallo. He said it was really important to get minutes for him, and we'll see how he builds out from there. He was also asked whether Amad would start next week against Sociedad, and Ollie was non-committal to that because he said there's some under-23 games before then. I'm a little bit concerned about Amad Diallo, and I'm not going to change my opinion because of how fantastically well we performed last night. I feel he's being chucked into the same category as the young players that are getting promoted. But I know he's 18, but he's actually played first-team football in Serie A and Champions League, right? He's not some youth player coming through to get first team experience and on a longer journey. I feel that Dan James played very well last night, but I would pick Amad Diallo 100 times out of 100 games over Dan James because he's different gravy. He's a different type of player. And he does need to play against Real Sociedad next week. Like, it's a perfect opposition. It's a perfect situation. It's at Old Trafford. It's a game where it will be competitive, but it's also a game where it's 4-0. Like, you can't lose that game. So he should be playing next week. He should be getting at least 45 minutes. And it doesn't make sense not to do it. It's not like it's not like we're in a title race. We're not. We've got loads and loads of games. Injuries could be a problem. Rashford could get injured. Greenwood could get injured. And then you need a winger. Do you want it to be Dan James or do you want it to be Diallo? So I would be getting Diallo as much game time as possible. It was a cameo last night, but it was good that cameo happened, and let's build on that. He won't be involved against Newcastle, I don't expect that, but Real Sociedad, I'd half expect him to start. I'd certainly expect him to get 45 minutes. I would predict right now he will get the last 20 against Sociedad. I don't think he'll even start. Hi Mark, off topic, but I've been watching your daily live videos. They are so soothing, quality content. Keep it up, mate, says Max. Thank you very much. Vlogs coming out at 1 o'clock today. I think if we got the quick and fast centre-back we all want, and Sancho were a striker away from a proper title challenge. But what about the midfield, Paul? I'm not criticising that opinion, it's yours, but all I would say, Paul, is you say we're a winger and a striker and a centre-back away from a title challenge. How's that midfield going to win as a title? Like, you're telling me that Fred and McTominay for 38 games are going to win as the title? No, it's not going to happen. It's not good enough. That midfield's not good enough over a 38-game season. Pogba will be gone. He doesn't play Donny in the pivot, and Matic is dusted. So how can we win a title with just Fred and McTominay? Not only are Fred and McTominay good enough, which I'm not convinced they are, but what about if one of them needs a rest? The midfield is well short of quality and depth. We've got to buy a midfielder. He doesn't use Donny in the pivot anyway. So people who say, we can use Donny there, he doesn't do it. Never knew that Solskjær was pronounced Solskjær. Learn something new every day, says Scott Power. And Ronaldo wouldn't just be a fantastic player on the pitch. His leadership and stature would lift the whole dressing room, would surely help Rashford, says Connor Harrison. I'd love Ronaldo as part of the Pogba deal. It's highly unlikely, isn't it? But I would like it to happen. I really, really would. I get that, but if we buy new on this summer, there is still too many for that 2 years. I mean, if we buy new, no contract extension for Cavani, says Marcus. Rashford needs to start taking his chances. I was pleased with Rashford last night. He should have scored 2 goals, but I think Rashford's having a good season. There is another level with Rashford, and I think that's the clear thing. Sell Pogba for 80 million, then get Sancho. We're never going to get 80 million for Pogba, Daniel. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, so we won't. We'll do well to get 50 for him. And Mark, remember when we won 5-0 against Leipzig and thought we were going to finesse the tournament? It's a safe ascent. Yeah, but this is over 2 legs, mate. Sociedad would have to beat us 5-0 next week to go through, or 5-1. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. And, we can afford to rotate the team. In other news, we've got that week off coming. I just want to read you what Solskjaer said. I think this is really important. Let me just get the exact quotes for you here. Really interesting. And very interesting in relation to the conversations we have on the United stand. Hippos are very dangerous, Mark. Big and always angry. I know. Hippos are not. Don't go striking a hippo. You'll lose your arm. Here we go. So, a few quotes from Solskjaer last night. Most interesting. We scored some good goals and played some nice football. We deserved to win, but maybe not by 4 goals. On a night like this, when we find spaces, we can be a very dangerous team. Well, we know that, and you're very rarely going to find spaces like that. Basically, we counter-attacked. He also said we had to defend well. They have some terrific players up front, and we earned the right to counter-attack quickly. They opened up, and we got the spaces we wanted. Paul Sweeney says, is Declan Rice a much better player than James Garner? I don't think he is. Garner is a fantastic talent, says Paul Sweeney. Yeah, but Garner's not going to play for Man United next season. This is what I mean. He's not going to be Man United's CDM next season. He needs to go into the Premier League and grow. He's a very good player, but we need... all you're doing, Paul, is you're just falling into the thing that frustrates me. Oh, we've got a player in a couple of years. Oh, there's a piece missing again. We're Manchester United. Next season, we need to be raring to go. Like, you can't go, well, Garner might be good enough in 2 years' time. We need someone in the next 4 months to come into that midfield position. You're telling me you're going to chuck James Garner in at 19, 20 years of age after 6 months at Forest. This is Premier League football trying to get into a title race. I hope he can be that player, and there's a lot to suggest he can. He's doing really well. But to drop him into a Man United midfield and run with that, I don't see that. You've got, and you need more than that. Solskjaer also said, every team attacks you. It's about finding the moments to find the space. We are a work in progress. We are learning, and some games we have not been able to win lately. And I think that sentence from Solskjaer exposes the whole outfit, and not necessarily in a bad way. We are a work in progress, and we are learning, and some games we have not been able to win lately. We are a work in progress, and we are learning on the job. I've said this for so long, and it irritates people. And I don't disagree with people being irritated by it, but I stand by my point, and it's great that Solskjaer said it. We are a work in progress, and we are learning on the job. That's what happens when you give the job to somebody like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Michael Carrick, and McKenna. They are learning on the job. They are a work in progress. This was always going to be the case. And whether some fans think that's right for Manchester United or not, maybe that's a valid point. But the point is, our manager has now come out and said what I've been discussing on here for a long time. We are a work in progress. Solskjaer is a work in progress, and we are learning on the job. And that's what we are. And this is why the consistency is not there. And the reality is, he will either become consistent and become a good manager, or he won't, and he will lose his job. And this is why I don't get stressed about sack Ollie out, this, that and the other. It's why I say let's see where we are in May, because we are a work in progress. Whether I like that or not, it's abundantly clear. You can see that from the mistakes we make and the successes we have. We have really good successes. Like last night was a very good performance. We've seen that against PSG and Leipzig in Europe. We've seen some of those performances in the Premier League. But we also still see West Brom and Sheffield United, late substitutions or no substitutions, favouritism in the selections, constantly Maguire and Lindelof with McFred in front of them, protecting them, and the forwards being starved of creativity. Cavani only getting about 1.5 chances a game when most strikers in the league are getting 2.5. These are all areas that are so blatantly obvious, and if it was Sir Alex, you'd be like, or it was Mourinho, you'd be like, what's going on? You're top of your game managers. But I always explain it in my mind that there's a lot of good that Solskjaer's done in this club and his coaches, but there are still glaringly obvious things that make you go, And I'm not talking about the song. Things that make you go, No, it does make you go, because, but I always justify this with the fact that we are a work in progress and we are learning on the job, because that's the people that we employed. Koundé isn't strong or dominant enough. He falls over too easily and he relies more on luck than dominance. JFK with the super chat there, which I will just describe as bollocks. Just because you do a super chat doesn't mean I can't have an opinion on it, and I think that's the biggest load of bollocks I've ever heard in my life. But thanks for the super chat. The coaches might be a work in progress, but Ollie should really put his foot down with the board, continuously buying youngsters, says Sammy. Mark, what about a swap deal with Dan James plus 20 million for Rafinha, says Krish. I mean, look, I gave Dan James a 7.5 last night. He deserved it. I'd sell him tomorrow. I'd sell him now. He's got no future at Manchester United. He's. I saw somebody describe him as a headless chicken. I think that's very harsh. But I would describe it in a positive sense, how I described it last night. In the first half, anybody could have done that role. He didn't stand out at all. He just ran up and down. You could get most players in the Premier League to do that job at any club. It was just a defensive job. He did it well. In the second half, there was loads of space because they were attacking. And you attack and leave wide open space. Dan James, when all he's got to do is get his head down and run forward, he is dangerous. He's dangerous. But he's got no creativity and he's got no ability when you play against the low block. And we need players like Diallo, like Sancho, like Bruno, like Greenwood, like Rashford, like Martial, who on their game can all play against low blocks. They've all got the intelligence, the body movement in tight spaces. Dan James hasn't got that. Doesn't mean he can't be a good footballer. I just don't think he's a good fit for Man United, so I would sell him. He's brilliant when you're playing Leeds or you're playing a team that's desperate to try and get back in the game and they leave themselves wide open at the back, because in a foot race he's going to win. If he's got 30 yards in front of him, Dan James is going to have you on toast. But how often does that actually happen when you're a top side? Imagine Dan James playing for Man City. Pep would be pulling his hair out if he ever had any, because how could he utilise Dan James when every team against Man City sits deep and you've got to pass your way through them? That's what I mean. There's footballers suit different styles. Dan James does not suit a team in the top four, because top four teams have to be clever. They have to be intricate. His pace becomes irrelevant against those sort of sides. If he was someone like a Raheem Sterling, who's quick but also very good at taking people on and very good in close situations, then you've got a player there. But Dan James is an old-fashioned winger. I used to get a lot of wingers like this when I was growing up. He's a kick and run. Kick it in front and sprint. And it's a very effective way of playing, but not at the top level anymore. Would you sell David De Gea, Pogba and Martial to help fund Koundé, Rice, Sancho and a striker? If Greenwood and Diallo progress, do we need Sancho and strikers? Says Kieran Byrne. Look, I'm a massive fan of David De Gea. And I'm a big fan of Dean Henderson. I prefer De Gea in goal. I'm very open to that. But there's no doubting that we've got two very good goalkeepers there. And I said this at the start of the season, and it was nothing to do with backing De Gea or backing Dean Henderson. I never understood why we kept Henderson and gave him 140 grand a week. That's more than most keepers in the Premier League, and he's our reserve goalkeeper. I don't like what we're doing. I don't like you playing the Europa League. I've penciled you in for the league and I've penciled you in for the Europa League. You should have one goalkeeper, in my opinion. You should have one number one goalkeeper. And again, to me, this comes down to director of football and the lack of it. I think a director of football would say, hold on a minute, why are we paying £500,000 a week for two good goalkeepers when we only need one? You know, we don't need, potentially England's best goalkeeper and Spain's best goalkeeper as our two goalkeepers. You can only play one of them. They very rarely get injured. Financially, I know you don't want to do it. I know you love both lads, but one of them's got to go. And look, if we could get good money for David De Gea, it would help our transfer budget. If we can get good money for Dean Henderson, it would help our transfer budget. And it wouldn't make any bloody difference to us, because at the moment, we're basically trying to distribute games fairly to two good goalkeepers, and we're wasting a lot of money. There is an asset there. David De Gea and Dean Henderson are an asset. That's money that we could be using on other... And remember what I said at the start of the video about holes in the team. There are holes in this team, and we've got two very good goalkeepers who are worth a lot of money and paid a lot of money, that we could remove one of them, never even notice it, be sad, whichever one goes, but that money could then be invested in the squad where we need it. And again, this comes down to poor planning from the club. And I think, I said this at the start of the season, and some people agreed with me, some people didn't, but why have we got two amazing goalkeepers like that, and yet we haven't got two amazing centre-backs, we haven't got two amazing centre defensive midfielders, where you can actually play two centre-backs in a game, and you can play two CDMs in a game, but you can't play two goalkeepers. Waste of money, in my opinion. Dan McMahon, welcome to the Members Club, thank you very much. And I think out of the two, Dean Henderson's the easier to sell, by the way, because De Gea's contract is over 300k a week, and it's a long contract. So United we'd need somebody to take his wages and someone to pay 50 million. Whereas I think Dean Henderson, being the up-and-coming goalkeeper, there's probably a little bit more interest in him. But I don't think we'll sell either. But it is a problem. What happens next season? Dean Henderson's a year older. You're going to start benching De Gea and completely waste 300k a week on a goalkeeper that you can't sell? I think they made a mistake from the very start with this. There was a buyer for Dean Henderson in the summer, and we should have done it. Or we should have done it with De Gea. PSG want David De Gea. Well, if they do, then, look, I love De Gea. I don't want him to go. But if they do, then, you've got to stop. I always say you've got to be ruthless. You've got to be ruthless. It's not mates rates. A lot of you think that Ollie is favourite towards people. And I think we're going to see it on Sunday. We're going to see the return of Maguire and Lindelof, which is just... I don't get that. I really don't get why we play Maguire and Lindelof. It makes us worse as a football team. It makes Maguire a worse footballer. And yet Ollie thinks it's the way to go. And I don't understand it anymore. I really haven't understood it for a few weeks, but I don't understand it anymore. But so maybe there is a bit of favouritism in that team. It's about camaraderie, which is an important thing. But I think you've got to get ruthless if you want to improve as well, without a shadow of a doubt. Dan James is better than Martial. Morning, Ricky, hiding behind the name Divaswala. And I wouldn't sell... No, Ricky wouldn't say that. Faced with competition, says Dominic, why is it that Martial shrinks? I don't know. I don't know Anthony Martial personally, so I don't know. Maybe Maguire and Lindelof isn't Ollie's decision. Well, he's the manager, Felix. I don't think anybody else should be picking the team. And we could do Koundé for 60 million, Pogba swap deal for Haaland plus 25 million, or Martial for Haaland plus 35 million, Sancho for 50 to 70 million. Yeah, but you still need 130 million there, Active 83. I like what you've done, but you've just spent 60 million on Koundé. You're saying Pogba plus 25 million for Haaland, which is 85 million, and then you want Sancho for another 70 million. You've just spent 150 million cash. United won't have 60. So you need to be a lot more creative than that. As soon as anyone wants David De Gea, we should sell him because we won't be able to shift him otherwise and lose him on a free, says Seb B. Watching Greenwood's interview, he looks like a terrified kid. What have they done to him? I haven't seen that interview. I thought he looked good in the press conference the other day. But look, fast paced today. We will have Ollie's press conference reaction coming out at lunchtime. I think he's already spoken to the press about the match for Newcastle. He would have done that after the Europa League game, but it'll be coming out about 1:30. So we'll be live for that just after 1:30. And then we have got the preview, which I'm going to do probably on the 8 o'clock show tonight. So lots of content for you. Very quick turnaround, Europa League to Sunday. And it's a must-win game against Newcastle. But get your comments in. What are you thinking? Do you think it's too late for United to be sitting down and talking about transfer targets in a few weeks' time? Are you encouraged that we're looking at a centre-back, a right-winger and a forward? Do you worry about other areas? What do you think about Solskjaer saying we're a work in progress and we're learning on the job? I've always said this. I think it's very obvious, but some people don't seem to like that. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We're closing in on 990,000 and then it's the final 10 to you know where. So please subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on the video. Have a good day. Stay safe and I'll speak to you soon.